All right, we're back with another episode of Talking Preps. We're going into week 11. It's the regular season finale. And Grice, we're going to get right to it here. The 1A rankings. Anything surprise you? Mount Airy Tarboro at the top. Any surprises?
Nothing surprises me here. I mean, Mount Airy's been playing well all year. We know about Tarboro. I'm excited to see Swain County continue to go up, and
Mm.
we know Cutler Adams out of Robbinsville, that explosive running back, one of the best players in 1A football, has those boys ready to go in that top four.
Grice's gym this week, Cutler Adams. He didn't get the call, but he was on the list.
Hey, he was close. Hey, he was on the caller ID. We
He's
almost
on the
got him
call
there.
ID. He's on the call ID. All right, 2A. Sam, Clinton and Monroe still at the top. You still think Monroe's going all the way?
Yeah, I think Monroe is the best team in 2A. If you had to ask me, I would say by far they're the best team. They've been battle tested as well. I mean, Forest Hills is an unbelievable team, and I mean they were giving them 28-0 at halftime. I mean
Yeah,
they're a
yeah.
good
The
football
game
team.
got stopped. Unfortunately, those two teams might meet again. That would draw a little bit of a crowd down in Union County. Dale, let's take a look at 3A. Kings Mountain and Crest playing this week. What do you think about this poll?
Uh, I'm wondering just a little bit about Dudley. Just
You think Dudley's
based on
not the right team at the top? Chris has been
no,
swapping them all year long.
I think Crest is.
Think Crest is?
But I like what I see here, though. I think West Charlotte might be a little too low. Uh,
I tell you what, just take us off the list.
Well,
And don't put
Hickory's
don't
going to
even
surprise some people.
you
Yeah.
have
don't
two
even
losses,
don't even
but
put
you
us
have to
on
kind of put an asterisk there on West Charlotte because they have two losses. All right, Fight Club, Grace. No changes. The exact same as it was last year, last week in the Fight Club.
Yeah, I think we know that we're gonna get some battles here. We know Chambers is gonna face Creek, who might not be on this list, but we know they're always hovering around. You got Independence and Butler going to shake some things up.
Mm.
Mooresville, we'll talk, of course, later, has a huge game, one of the biggest games probably in the history of Iredell County,
Ooh.
coming this weekend, which that one against 9-0 Lake Norman. So you've got some teams here that you're eyeing that have some big games. That while it's the last week, that hurdle's a little mini mountain they got to get over to get to that where they want to go at the end of the year.
So you saying that might be changing next week? Private schools, we got to swap. Chris switched up to private schools. We got D1 and D2 rankings. He's got Providence Day basically switching with Rabun Gap after Rabun Gap won. Dale, you saw that game. What you think about Rabun Gap? You were talking on the what do we call it, the spaces on Friday, like they're one of the best teams you ever saw.
They are the most physical team I've seen. Uh, I just need more watching of them
Well,
to
you got to
really.
go up to Georgia to watch them because they got home
I
field
know,
to
I
play.
know. It's hard to call, but that is they're
We
good
might have to
enough.
start a GoFundMe to get Dale to go to the state championship game. Here the
I'm
D
sure
two
Chad would let me ride on the bus with him if I
probably
wanted to
will. Here
go.
the D two High Point Christian jumped over Hickory Grove. They beat them head to head. Not much changes there. And then in Chris's 8 man, he dropped that down to 5 teams as well. If I can find his 8 man rankings, I always struggle to find every week. All right, they're the 8 man. Wayne Chris, exactly the same. He just pulled it out as the 8 man. There were a lot of the private school people. Grice was saying that it was unfair to have the D1s and D2s combined, so we split them apart, and hopefully everybody be a little happy. They said there's a pretty large gap in the talent in the structure there. But I want to talk. You just said something that caught my ear, Grice. You said that Lake Norman in Mooresville was the biggest game in Iredell County history, or one of them. Tell me why you feel that is.
I mean, the biggest thing with this matchup, and I think you have two teams that have always on a collision course. I've said this, other places. We talk a lot about what the NCHSAA and these areas do as far as schedules. One thing they've gotten right is placing these rivalry or these kind of rivalry adjacent matchups in the end of the year. You look at what Coach Oliphant's done at Lake Norman and just brought that program kind of back to where you'd seen it, but really now with the sustained success. And he's doing it in a different way. And I think that's been the exciting part. You had seen in the past some of the D1 guys they have, D2 guys. One of the guys I think had a receiver went to wing it, had some other pieces there. We saw them beat Mallard Creek the COVID year. Really, match up with Huff. They seem to be a little different, kind of not exactly an option on offense now, but still can power that ball they need to. On defense, they're really about bending but don't breaking, but coming downhill with an attitude. You see that from their side. Mooresville, Coach Nixon has really continued to elevate, that big program there. from getting there. I think his first year was the COVID year as well. He was able to really transform that team and just, build an attitude. And now he's got a quarterback attached to it in sophomore Brody Norman. So both of these programs, I think, have always been, Mooresville, of course, always been pretty good. Lake Norman has had their ups and downs, but you've got both of these programs meeting each other at the height of their game. And then last year, they weren't there, but a roughing the passer penalty on fourth down on the last drive of the game in the fourth quarter allowed for Mooresville to get the game-winning field goal. I watched that on tape, and I wasn't even there, and I felt the chills.
All right. Well, before we get your breakdown on the game, we're going to hear from both coaches. So we're going to jump to that, and then we'll get Grice's breakdown when we come back.
What's going on, guys? Game of the week, part 2. I had to include this game. I guess being a part of this conference, maybe I'm biased. So what? I get to choose the games of the week. That'll be this week, the GM4, the Greater Metro 4 Conference Championship game. Mooresville, Lake Norman going down up at Lake Norman. We've got head coach Joe Nixon here. Again, coach, I had to get this game on here. First question I've got to bring up. I kind of know how it goes down at Joe Pop. I know how it goes down at Lake Norman Stadium. Explain to the people how crazy this game is going to be. Like, I'm hearing people are talking about arriving at 4 p.m. to a daggum 6:30 start.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a really good crowd. I know our fan base will travel well. I know Lake Norman's fan base will travel, will be there. Everybody's excited, so it should be a really good environment for all the players.
Joe,
sure. I've been in both of those stadiums, and again, Joe Pop is one of my favorite stadiums. I love the trailer up there, just a wonderful engineering. You guys have a lot of wild, crazy fans. You guys on the sideline, all in black, looking like you're ready for somebody's funeral, getting jazzed up. So I know that's going to be exciting being on that away side. But going into that game, how do you feel your team's looking? I, of course, have had the pleasure of seeing you guys earlier in the year, and I thought you were kind of getting to that good spot, but also seeing, you guys, it looks like Brody, your quarterback's continuing to grow and develop, which is great. So how do you feel you guys are going into this game?
I mean, I'm really pleased where our team is. We got a lot of senior leaders on our team, and they've been in the big games before. So, I think that we've gotten better throughout the year. But ultimately, I am pleased where we're at. And, we're going to try to play another good game on Friday night.
Hey, brother. So just one thing I'd like to say. I think you're one of the last dying breeds of the running the football, doing it the right ways. Do you think playing offensive line in college and throughout your life, you kind of see the game differently than maybe someone else does? You feel like you see it in between the trenches a little differently?
I mean, of course, that's what I'm most comfortable at. Obviously we like to run the football, but we will spread around and throw it when we need to. If teams are going to give us, we try to like to take what teams give us on offense, but ultimately we're going to try to control the line of scrimmage on both sides.
Well, I think you do an amazing job, man. I think the culture you set in place, it shows like Mooresville football is back. Once you guys got into this conference a couple of years ago, I mean, you guys have dominated 2 years in a row right now, and it's your title to lose. So I wish you the best, brother.
I appreciate you guys.
Definitely, Coach. We thank you for coming on again. I wanted to have you guys as a game of the week. I think both programs are two phenomenal programs that are some of the best in this state. So, Coach, of course I've got to handle business, but I'll be keeping one eye on that score update, and hopefully they're updating me to see what's going on, because I know that area is going to be rocking the entire week. So, best of luck to you guys, and hopefully talk with you soon.
No doubt. Thank you, guys. Good luck to y'all this week also.
All right, we got Lake Norman coach Jonathan Alford here with us. Coach, the 20th meeting with you in Mooresville. Mooresville won the last two. Bad Guys won the last two. What's going to be different on Friday night?
This game is a lot like Carolina Duke in basketball. I've played in this game as a player. I've coached on both sides of the fence. And it just always seems, regardless of records, this game is a hard-fought, get-after-each-other game, and that's just kind of the way it is. I mean, I think it still is the the longest game in North Carolina history. One year they played 7 overtimes. Now I wasn't involved in that one, thank goodness, but it's a great crosstown rivalry. Arguably one of the best in the state, and so I'm just excited for our kids and then even their kids to get the opportunity to play in front of the crowd that I expect to be here on Friday night.
You talked about coaching on both sides. What's it like coaching against your old school? Do you give them any secrets, and then do you take the other school back when you go?
My dad started coaching at Mooresville in 1989 with Mike Carter. I grew up in that program. I was a ball boy for 8-9 years. And then tried to get the job twice, and then just the powers that be. And honestly, at the time, I probably wasn't ready. But this place gave me an opportunity and has kind of embraced me. I wouldn't have changed anything about my journey. And, it's a big game. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and lie. Like, I circle it every year, and it is what it is. So I'm excited for the opportunity to play them. And, I'm glad it's at our place.
What's it going to take to win this game? I talked about before, Moses won the last 2, so I'm sure you're probably extra motivated to beat your Alma.
Yeah, we just got to continue to do what we've done. Our kids have loved each other throughout this whole process. It just seems like every week we've had 1 or 2 or 3 kids out. Last Friday against South, we had, I believe, 6 starters out from week 1, and just various things. Some of them will get back. Some of them just sick and just various things. And, but these kids are tested. Our non-conference schedule, I feel like, has prepared us for this moment, throughout the season, and not having guys here and there. We've had a lot of kids play. We had two freshmen playing last week against South on varsity. And, I just got to believe that that's going to pay dividends in the long run.
All right, Coach, last question, and this might be my fault, but when people talk about the greatest rivalries in North Carolina, they don't mention this game. What are we missing when we're not talking about Lake Norman and Mooresville?
Well, I mean, you just got some really good rivalries in the state. I mean, you got Kannapolis and Concord. You've got Pisgah, Tuscola, and you've got a lot of other ones, Richmond County, Scotland County. I mean, you've got a lot of other big rivalries, and I think sometimes this one does get lost in the shuffle, but in its own right, it's a great rivalry game. Being so close to one another, and all of our kids knowing their kids and playing youth league together, and all of us, our staff and their staff knowing each other. And then, you throw in me and Dad's and then some of my other staff's connections to the place. It just makes it special. And, I remember coming over here, Josh Ladowski's senior year in 2014, and we were undefeated, and Lake Norman was undefeated, and there was a lot of people here, and I highly anticipate seeing, maybe 8,000 to 10,000 people here next Friday night. And then that's just a great high school experience for our guys and their guys. And I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. Well, Coach, thanks for jumping on with us. Good luck on Friday night.
As we alluded to before, this is going to be one of the biggest games in Iredell County. You guys better get there early. I think, Coach Nixon talked about it a little bit, letting hey, some of these people are talking about getting there at 4:30 for this 6:30 kickoff. But some of the keys here, again, the first one, who will win in the trenches? We know about Lake Norman's big offensive line. Mooresville matches them in size, but, we talked about Ethan Callaway before, the LSU commit, big body, big guy that's just a straight up people mover. And both of these teams, make no mistake about it, they're all about moving the ball. They're about going mano a mano and taking you down the field that way. Both of these teams do want to depend on the run here. The second one, who will trust their quarterback more? You've got 2 sophomore quarterbacks here. You got Haynes Robertson on the Lake Norman side and Brody Norman on the Mooresville side. And we've started to see Mooresville's offense open up a little bit more now that Brody's getting comfortable, as a sophomore quarterback, but it's really shown flashes of what he can do with getting that ball down the field and with his feet there. So it'll be interesting to see on that side. Haynes has been doing a good job, managing and kind of, more of that dreaded quote unquote game manager, but we've seen flashes of him being able to put the ball where he needs to in key moments. Both of these defenses are really good defenses, top-notch, some of the best in the conference as well as around the area. Who's going to be the quarterback that's going to be able to make that one-on-one throw to their big-time receiver for a play that could potentially win the game? And finally, the most disciplined team will win this game. Let us not forget that the loss for Lake Norman last year came off of a 4th down roughing the passer penalty when they had them taking that. They had them that where they would have gotten the ball back immediately. So that just crushing play lets you know this game feels like it's just going to come down to that one possession where whoever doesn't blink, whoever doesn't make that wrong decision is going to be successful. But had to choose this game as we knew it was going to be one of the best in the state, and I'm excited to hear about the results. Well, that was the Grice's game of the week. While you're waiting for some more Talking Preps action, be sure to grab you a Deer Park water.
Deer Park is celebrating its 150th anniversary.
Deer Park? That's good water.
You can taste how pure Deer Park is.
Deer Park, that's good water.
Deer Park, that's still good water.
All right, we're back, guys. Let's talk about some big games. Gary, I want to come right to you because you got called out by Chambers last week, and I see you got a certain shirt on tonight.
Well, I went in my closet, deep in my closet, and see did I still have some Vans stuff? You would think they would send me some Chambers stuff since I was the one.
Not when you always pick
Yeah, well, I'm the one that got the consent of the Chambers family to get the name changed. I'm the one that made the nomination to get it changed to Julius Chambers. I'm the one that made the presentation to the school board and then went out and campaigned on Facebook to get the school name changed to Chambers. And this is how they treat me. They got me all up in the video.
So what's going to happen on Friday night? Are you going to finally say the Chambers are going to win again?
They have a short memory because when they were back in their heyday going to the state championship every year, I always picked them, but all they're playing for, along with Mallet Creek, is for the holler championship of University City. Who can go on the field and holler the most and do the most posturing and blow up their chest and do a little dance at the 50. That's what they're playing for on Friday night. Who's the holler champion of University City, and the holler champion will be Chambers.
Cam is just laughing because you're going to be on the video with slow motion dudes and your voice in the background. You're going to be on the video this week.
Used to be, Gary, that used to be
one
of the biggest games in Charlotte, man.
Yeah, Dale, tell me about Charlotte Christian Country Day. These two teams are tied for second place. This is a big game.
Important game. Yeah, big game. It just seems like, though, Langston, there's such a gap between these teams and Providence Day and Raven Gap.
But somebody's got to get to the playoffs and be,
somebody's got to get there. So important game.
Country Day's won 2 in a row. I mean, I think Christian would be a big favorite going into that one. Cam, we got the Battle of Gastonia, Ashbrook and Hunter Huss. What do you think there?
Yeah, I think these two teams really are going to rely on their defense. Neither team scores a lot of points, but I mean they rely on their rushing game as well. I think this game could be in the teens even, but Huss's quarterback Javarion Brown is going to really look to establish the run game. He leads both not only in passing but in rushing. So.
Well, Dale, one game I know that's not going to be in the teens is Crest and Kings Mountain on Friday, right?
No way. When you want to talk about rival games, first of all, this is huge, and it's a hugely important game as well. It has the same kind of implications that the Mooresville Lake Norman games got. It's a similar. I shouldn't say it's similar. There are many great rival games around the state, but this is one of the best. Crest is an offense that just they can't stop. They put up points all over the place.
50 plus.
Exactly. So, but Kings Mountain has a pretty decent defense, so they're going to be pressed. I think it's going to be a really, really good game and a really tight game as well. But we'll see if Kings Mountain can hold that Crest offense down. I think they're going to have to hold them into the 30s if they can.
All right, Cam, lightning round. Tell me about Concord A.L. Brown, the Bell game, the other big game in Cleveland County, Burns and Shelby, and then the game of the week in Union County, Porter Ridge, and Sun Valley.
Yeah, when you look at Concord and A.L. Brown, I mean, this used to be the rivalry game of all rivalry games. When I was a kid growing up, You used to take blankets out to watch this game, being from Kannapolis and the Concord area. But I just don't see this one being a close game. I really think Concord, here's your bulletin board material, but I think the Wanderers they played too tough of a schedule, and despite their 4-5 record, I think they're going to win their 9th consecutive game against the Spiders. What's it going to take for Concord to win? They're just going to have to put on their best performance of the year and really hone in on stopping the run, because Makai Heron, he's an animal. But then, you move down to Burns and Shelby, and talk about another rivalry game. And these two teams are literally ranked one spot apart in both the state and the 2A rankings. So Shelby's playing really good ball at the right time of year, coming in at 6-3 with a big time win over East Gaston, who Burns, rather, excuse me, had just played a few weeks ago, in a little bit tighter of a contest, maybe not in the end, but this is for their conference championship. So obviously both teams are going to be playing motivated. And then so you move down to Porter Ridge and Sun Valley. While Weddington's already got the conference kind of wrapped up, I look at this game as playing for some playoff implications seeding-wise. It could shake up the conference standings, and so it's an important game nonetheless. But I lean Porter Ridge, just looking at who they've played and similar opponents. And I know football is a game of matchups, but the game against Cuthbertson, Porter Ridge won rather convincing, while Sun Valley barely eked out a win against them. So I tend to lean Porter Ridge.
Be careful about that because this team beat that team, that this will happen. Dale, tell me about
the thing about Langston. The thing about that game is the Battle of Walmart. It's the Battle of Cookout, and we're talking about Indian Trail. This is a big Indian Trail rivalry. There's a lot more implication to this game. It's a huge rival game.
Well, Dale, you're talking. Give me 30 seconds before we turn Grice loose on Independence and Butler. This is the Battle of Mint Hill Matthews.
So Langston, biggest rival in Charlotte right now. Probably the biggest rival game in the 2000s of any of the schools as far as attendance was concerned. Nearly sold out Memorial Stadium before everything got tore down.
Memorial Stadium was big.
Say again?
When Memorial Stadium was big.
Was big. Over 20,000 people attended that game. We're looking at a strong, solid, physical team in Butler. We're looking at a finesse team, more of a finesse team in Independence, a team that started slow. We thought would start fast this year and maybe be one and finish one. But they've kind of gotten back in gear. So I think this is potentially going to be a great ball game. Independence will have to, DJ's going to have to score because that Butler defense is really, really, really going to be tough on them. So
I think one of the keys to this game is that Independence gets the ball and doesn't let Butler kind of run that wing T-ish thing they do and keep the ball away. But before we hear from Grice and breaking it down, we're going to hear from both coaches. So we're going to go to Coach Hales and Coach McFadden right now, and then we'll come back with Grice breakdown. All right, so we're back, guys. We got Coach Brian Hales of Butler, the grandfather of Mecklenburg County football.
Dang, grandfather now. Oh, my gosh.
Did you ever think you'd be one of the old guys?
No, definitely did not. I thought I was going to stay like 30 forever, and it's been a little bit jarring here the last few weeks.
Well, let's get right to it. We got a really big football game. It kind of feels like Back to the Future. Independence and Butler, both highly ranked, Sweet 16, statewide, even the Carolinas top 25, playing for a conference championship. Is this the way it should be?
Yeah. I mean, in our world down here in, Southeast Charlotte, it's just the way things are. Butler Independence with big stakes and, a lot of say so what's going to happen, not just in Charlotte, but statewide.
What do you guys have to do to beat the Big I?
Excuse me. I think we're a pretty good football team, to be honest with you. And, for us, it's always, and this is your favorite thing, but, just playing as good as we could possibly play. We want to be error-free before the ball snapped. And, we want to make sure we're not doing, silly things after the ball is snapped. Those are two really big things. So, of course, we want to take care of penalties, take care of the football, things like that. But, I don't think we need to go to extremes and kind of recreate the wheel, what we do defensively and offensively. We just need to, be really good at the things that we already do.
Talk about your team this year, Coach. I mean, everybody talks about the Roseville game. Roseville turned out to be a really, really good football team. But how have you guys gotten on the run since the Roseville game? And clear this up for me. How many players missed that Roseville game starting? We've heard all kinds of
That's been cracking me up seeing 7. I was hoping we kept waiting and we'd be up to about 15 starters out for that one. But no, honestly, we were a little bit beat up, but in terms of starters, maybe 2.
Okay.
Maybe 3 is pushing it probably.
Mm-hmm.
One of them was DeQuadre, who probably seems like he's about 7 players at some time.
Quadre Currents, yeah.
For sure. He's fantastic. But, he was out. We were a little bit beat up at the receiver spot that night more than anything, really. But no, all this, we had 7 starters out. No, I don't know where that came from.
But how have you guys gotten on a run? Was it that win down in Georgia that did it, or what was it? Because that's one of the biggest wins ever in Charlotte history, if you ask me, by the way.
Yeah, no, I think it is too. But, when you go back to that Roseville game and, we lost by 2 points, and as we all know, that's one play. And it could have been one play all over the place. So, we went back and we looked at the number of plays we took off, as individuals that night.
Mm-hmm.
And there was probably 30 to 40 instances of a guy taking a play off that was on the field, and just pointing out that if any of those plays were different, there was a different outcome. And that really hit home with this group after that first week, and realizing that we're not the team that we could just kind of show up and people are going to fall down for us. So we've got to play really hard. Now, what happened, we went down to Georgia, is that we didn't really practice much for that game, honestly. We were in the gym quite a bit because of the heat. I think we got outside to practice one day going into that game. And that was over almost a 2-week period. But, I think one thing that it did is it forced our guys to really, really come together as a team.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously with the close quarters having to be in the gym to practice, the long bus rides and that up to Roseville and then down to Atlanta, and the time that they all spent together has really, really, paid off. And it wasn't something we went into the season saying that, let's do this stuff and bring it together. It just happened organically. And honestly, I didn't even really notice it. It was Coach Sanders that pointed it out.
Mm-hmm.
And it made too much sense. And so, no, it's funny that, we all talk, we want our teams to be family and this and that. And it is, but, to watch our guys like Zach, and DeQuadre, Zach Lawrence and DeQuadre Currents, you would think these guys have the greatest, most symbiotic relationship, when the reality is they're an old married couple. These dudes argue with each other all the time.
Yeah.
And it's fun to watch because, really they're 2 highly competitive, very intelligent football players that, realize that the success of the team, is largely dependent on what those 2 guys do. And they both want to be successful so bad. And it's funny to watch them just go back and forth at practice, in the film room during games. But again, to have 2 kids like that, it's really beneficial.
Last question, Coach. You've been around state championship teams. Does this team have a state championship DNA?
Yeah, absolutely it does. The parts are there. What's everybody want? You want a team that's big and long, and we've got that. You want teams to play great defense, and we've got that. And, teams that consistently put drives together and make big plays on offense. And then the third part, which is where I think we're as good this year as we've ever been, and that's in the kicking game. We've got a kicker that's putting the ball in the end zone. Heck, probably 90% of the time. And obviously with DeQuadre and the guys on the return teams too, we're getting great field position. We get big plays out of the return game. Kid Neo Espinoza, I think, has blocked 4 punts for us this year. Wow. So, yeah, we've been really good in the kicking game this year.
All right. Well, Coach, good luck on Friday with Independence. Should be a big-time game as usual, and we'll see you in the playoffs next week.
You got it. Thanks, Langston.
What's going on, everybody? Hey, and it's an additional piece to the Grice's Game of the Week. We already got a 2-pack. We're interviewing coaches to go on with this, as I think it's one thing we can all agree. The state's done some things that may make us scratch our head a little bit at times, but this is one of the things they've gotten right. These end of the year battles between some big time programs. We've got another one this year, of course, per usual, with the big, what is it, the King of the Hill? Is it the Hill? What is the appropriately named rivalry, DJ?
It's the King of the Hill.
King of the Hill. So we got the King of the Hill, got the trophy and everything that it is between Independence and Butler. Again, we have coach here, DJ McFadden, who's one of the best coaches and has done one of the best jobs, I feel like, in this city. Has established that standard. Coach, we're happy to have you on. I'll start first. Of course, having seen your guys up front. This year, looking at your team, at first in the beginning, everybody's kind of trying to figure it out. Our game, I thought, week 2, I think that was, or week 3, whatever, week 2, you guys really asserted your dominance. I think it's kind of carried forward. Where's your team now as you look at kind of how the season's going, and especially going into this game? Because it's a little different. You're undefeated this year, going into it. How do your guys feel, and how do you guys feel as a staff?
Yeah, we're right where we want to be, right where we thought we would be. Coming out of that non-conference stretch, kind of playing our best ball right now. We're peaking. We're getting healthy. We had a pretty decent non-conference schedule, man, and that kind of prepared us for this run, and we kind of wanted it like that. Guys have gained experience throughout the year. Guys are playing better. Like I said, guys are getting healthy, man. So we're kind of right where we want to be, right where we thought we would be, kind of heading into this championship game.
Yeah, I think your quarterback is really coming to play the type of ball that he was towards of last year. He's being the leader you guys need him to be. And I think you guys were very young a lot in certain areas like the offensive line, and they've gained so much experience now that they've caught up with the rest of the team. And I think that you guys are something to be reckoned with right now. What do you feel about the offensive line's progress throughout the year?
Yeah, I mean, those guys, starting off the season, we had 4 new offensive linemen. One of them was a freshman. One guy had never played O-line before, and the other 2 were JV guys last year. So, as the season has gone along, they've gotten better and better, just kind of understanding their assignments and just playing the experience, man. Your first time varsity player and you playing in Memorial Stadium against Mallet Creek, that's tough. And then, you got to turn around and play Hickory Ridge and the crazy game that was, and then turn around and play a game against a tough West Charlotte team. I mean, we had a tough stretch just with a lot of guys just kind of, wanting to gain experience and getting comfortable in the system. And then me as a play caller kind of getting comfortable with all the new pieces on offense and kind of learning what guys can do well and things like that. And I think that's what you saw those first 4 games. I think by the time we hit Catholic, just like last year, even though we lost last year, I thought that was kind of the turning point for our season. And like I said, we're kind of right where we want to be.
No doubt. Grayson got something to ask you. I can't say that.
Well, you got to talk. We got to get into this rivalry. I think this is one rivalry to me that's unique. That I like it for, of course, the historical aspect. I like it for the fact that you're coaching where you played. Additionally, you coached on the other side of this rivalry. So I mean, there are many layers to this. That again, I see it on the schedule. I knew week 1 this was going to be a Grice's Game of the Week. Can you talk about that rivalry? Even going back to the legend TK, as he called them, the puppy dogs, with that battle, and just kind of how you look at it, how you view that other side, with your time even being over there, and what you expect to accomplish.
Yeah, we think this is one of the best rivalries in the state, especially now. We're both kind of back at the top of the state. Like I said, we're playing for a conference championship, playing for the King of the Hill trophy. Both teams undefeated in the conference this year. We got a chance to win back-to-back games against that team. So, it's a lot on the line, man. We don't talk much about what's happened in the past in this rivalry because I'm sure you ask Butler fans, they're going to say, well, the last 10 years, we've been dominating this rivalry. But, I can say, well, I remember a time where we dominated. So, what we've been telling our kids is the only thing that matters is pretty much what's happened in these last 3 years with this regime. We got some guys that are sitting at 1-1 right now against them on the varsity level. So we got a chance to kind of settle the score there. We respect that program. But, at the end of the day, we're going to stand on business and, we plan on taking care of that Friday.
I agree,
Standing
man.
on
I
business.
think
Love
the
to hear it. Well,
rivalry.
Coach, we had to get you on again. Shout out to what you're doing with that program, continuing to raise the bar there. As I feel like each year, no matter what you've had, no matter what seniors are leaving, you're raising that standard. And I think within this city, everyone knows that you go out to Mint Hill and have to play those Patriots. It's going to be a long day. So shout out to you, Coach. Rooting for you guys. Definitely, best of luck this week and on into the playoffs.
I appreciate you guys, man. Appreciate you having me.
Doing a great job, man. I love your culture, brother.
All right, we've got another big rivalry. This one, of course, at the end is a de facto conference championship game as well. Butler Independence going to be a big-time game. First piece is which QB will shine the brightest? We've talked a lot about Justin Little and Zach Lawrence. I think they're two of the brightest young quarterbacks in this area. It's hard to believe they still have another year after this year. But, looking at this matchup, it's whoever's going to have the big game against the tough defense they're facing on the other side. Justin Little started off rough with I think it was with 4 interceptions. He had 4 interceptions in the first 2 weeks and has only had 2 interceptions since week 2. So good for him settling down. He's got 1,700 yards passing with 23 touchdowns and 5 picks. So he's really settled into the quarterback I think that we've all known he could be, and quietly having a phenomenal season since that point. We know Zach Lawrence on the other side, of course, had some tough competition he's gone against as well. Has about 1,200 yards passing with 14 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. We know that they've leaned heavily on the ground, but he's still a guy we know if he needs to deliver a ball in the seam or fit it in between 2 defenders, either one of these quarterbacks in your arsenal here is going to be a great one to be able to make that happen. The second key is whose balance is going to be the best. So highlighting the run-pass balance that we know, again, while we traditionally know Butler for their wing-based offense, we know that they can spread and throw the football. We look at it, as I say, with DeQuadra Currents, the receiver on that side, and the running back Williams, as those 2 key guys to make things happen. With some of the conference opponents these guys play, the numbers and things can get jumbled. But looking in those key games, we can see with Butler, they want to get the ball to Currents through the air. They want Williams to be the main guy carrying the ball. And on the independent side, their balance between Jaden Jones, the running back, who's had a phenomenal season so far with over 1,000 yards. You've got the receiver Vontrez Burch along with the tight end William Brown. So they've got a little bit where they've got a big tight end who's able to make some plays happen, and just looking to see who can get the ball to their guys and against a tough defense. That guy that's going to be able to shine through one-on-one, that's going to be the team that I think is going to be successful. And always in these big-time games, turnovers will be key. I think both of these quarterbacks are amazing, but they do have a penchant for turning the ball over sometimes, and I think that's going to be the key. I think it was an untimely interception last year by Butler late in that game that sealed an Independence victory. So minimizing those turnovers by both quarterbacks and both sides of the ball. Of course, we know hanging on to the football with these defenses ready to turn any defensive situation and get the ball back for their offense. Got to make sure you minimize those turnovers to win what's going to be a highly contested game.
All right. Well, thank you, Grice. We're going to be right back with Coach versus Coach. You better get warmed up, Grice. We'll be right back after this message from Deer Park Water.
Deer Park is celebrating its 150th anniversary. Let's take a look back.
Deer Park, that's good water.
You can taste how pure Deer Park is.
Deer Park, that's good water.
Filtered naturally beneath the earth for a crisp, refreshing taste.
Deer Park.
Deer Park.
Deer Park. Deer Park.
That's still good water.
After 150 years, there's only one thing left to say. Deer Park, that's still good water.
How did you all get in here?
Welcome to another edition of Thunderdome.
I looked a lot younger in those pictures earlier, didn't I? Golly.
Winning ages you sometimes people don't want to go through that.
No,
Well,
stress.
I know Sam is going to defer, so let's get right to it.
Oh, yeah.
All right, Grice. Can Providence Day bounce back and win a state title at Raven Gap?
Ooh, that's going to be a tough one. It's one of those situations I would love to pick them. I just think it's so tough to play there. It's not about whether they can do it. They can do it. But going up there, I think that creates a different home field advantage, because they normally play them right about now where still warm, because last year they went up there and Jaden Davis had, he was a Grice's gym that week. I think he had over 400 yards passing, had like 4 touchdowns, one of the best games he's ever had and they won by 7. Now you're going up there. I remember that last year, the state championship game here, it was cold. It was cold. I was out on that field. It was chilly. How you think it's going to be up in them Georgia mountains? It is going to be pretty tough in those Georgia mountains. It's going to take their absolute best. So technically they could. I'm just going to have to lean on that side of it. It's going to be tough to play up there in the mountains against some boys.
Sam?
I think it's a great storyline, and I think they will prevail. I think that we will see the ship that I've said that is the best player in the state. I think he will rally the troops emotionally. I think they got a lot more to play for now. I think they were drinking their own Kool-Aid a little bit too much. Now they got to get back to the drawing board, and still on any given day, if one person can win a game, I like Chad Greer. I like the game planning. I think they'll have a game plan. But if you ask me who I'm betting on in the next one, if they make it to the state championship, the only thing I'm worried about is that Charlotte Christian game. Like, I think they both will meet in the semifinals, the other opponent, but now they got to play Charlotte Christian again. You can't overlook Charlotte Christian to get to the Raven Gap game. But if they get there, I like them in the next one.
I think the key to the last game was Raven Gap stole a possession early in the game. And you have to do that. You have to steal a possession, which they were able to do Friday night.
Yeah, they got grown men out there.
All right, Sam, what happened to the A.L. Brown Concord Bell game? Where did the shine go? What happened?
I'm glad this is a good question I hear. We need Concord to win the game. The rivalry game needs to be to the point where you don't know who's going to win it every year. And believe it or not, I got a gut feeling that Darren Shepherd's going to rally the Concord Spiders, and I think you're going to see a game that's going to be just tougher than you think, and I think they can pull this one out. I know I'm being against the grain here, but I'm pulling for Concord. But what happened to the game is just Concord needs to win it. Then the rivalry will be back a little bit more. It's not a rivalry game if you can't beat the other team.
Right.
Hey, quoting Glenwood Farabee, shout out to Coach Farabee, and the rivalry if they can't win no more. I think for me, this thing needs a little spice. Shepherd needs to come out there and say, we're going to take the ball, we're going to score on this Matt Hasselbeck. This game needs some spice. Everybody, in these rivalry games, people have been too quiet, been too nice. Everything's cool. He needs to freaking go up there and say, we coming. My man Darren Shepherd, and Darren's got it in him. Let's all be clear. He can be all politician and all that. Coach Shepherd has it in him.
Do it.
We're going to take this bell back. We're going to paint it black and gold, and we're going to put it on this field for every daggum game. He's getting there. They're building them wins up. They should be, 5 or 6 wins this year. That almost doubled their win total. You got a year or two for it. They're going to have to really see what's going on. I think we're getting very close, but we're about a year away.
Football is
no doubt.
Football is a lot more fun when A.L. Brown and Kannapolis are playing for something.
No doubt.
All right, Grice. Thoughts on seeding top 2 league finishers than everyone else and a wild card for the playoffs? This may affect you a lot this week. So what are your thoughts on that?
Oh, I get it. I get it. I'm with it. I like the other rule too, that if I'm ahead of you in conference, you can't go unless I go. Hey, I like that a lot too. That's a little caveat. Hey, you're behind me. You're behind me on the bus. Hey, you can't jump in front of me to get off the bus, because I get to get off the bus based on how I did in those important games at the end of the year. So again, we ain't had a great year, but I do like that. On a more serious note, I do think that as far as for the top 2 for a conference, I know Sam's in kind of a different conference, so it's not exactly the same. But I do like the fact that if you finish top 2, because these conferences are pretty decently structured for the most part, that the top 2 teams in every conference should give anybody trouble on a Friday night, no matter how good they are. You go first or second in your conference, you deserve to at least see some playoff action, which usually those teams are 6, 7, 8 win teams.
Sam, how would a finish affect you?
Well, we're in a split conference, so we have to win our 3A to get the automatic 1 through, I think it's 10 now, maybe, or 1 through 11 top seeds. And so we won our 3A conference, but we wanted to win the conference overall. So, affecting, I think that it's a great point. 1 and 2 should definitely go, but I think there should be an extra deal. You have to have a winning record with it, or it goes back into the fold. Top 2 finishers, I think that's kind of good, but I just wish that we did the rankings with the calculation of strength of schedule, not just based upon wins and losses. I think teams are going to really start figuring things out and just say, hey, let's go play the best 1A team, 2A team. If you're a 4A team, you're a juggernaut, but if you play a team that only got 1 loss, it's going to help your RPI rankings based upon the way they're doing it now. and you're going to get teams too mixed up in figuring that out.
I don't want to see that, Sam. I want to see the good matchups like y'all are giving us right now. Let's get to the good stuff. All right, sir.
Yeah.
Your final thoughts. You're in the big shot.
Yeah, I got something, a little bit emotional to say this time. This past week I had a rough week getting my tail whooped, but I had a scare health wise. Didn't know if something was going on with my throat or whatnot. I thought like it was going to be really, really bad, and praise the Lord, I don't think it's going to be that. Getting back to results, and I just let you know that sometimes as a family, sometimes your kids are going to ask you when you're tired. Like I got to realize I spend a lot of time with other people's kids. And my kid's like, let's go outside and play soccer. Let's go bump the volleyball. Let's go do something. And I made a really good point the last couple of weeks because my kids didn't know about my scare health-wise. And I just said, if they ask me to do something, I'm going to do it. And I just encourage everybody, all football coaches. I know we coach a lot of other people's kids, but if you have your own kids, when they say to do something, even though you're tired, go out there and do it, because every moment that I had with them, I know that I couldn't get that back, and it was special, no doubt.
No, absolutely. All right. Well, I'm Langston. That's Gary, the CMS football coach that loves Chambers. That's Jonathan Grice, number 2 voice high school football. That's Sam Grinder, the beat up coach of West Charlotte, who's gonna make a big run in the playoffs, I think. To get Cameron Williams starting a new job this week, Charlotte Post. Congratulations, Cameron.
Hey.
Dale Ross, the historian. We'll be back on Saturday with the show or Spaces or something. That's up to Dale. We'll be back on Saturday with the special show after the brackets come out. We'll be back next week with a special show on Talking Preps, and we'll see you then.